about 23 employees.
We're going to talk about getting real, talk about honesty. When you look at being honest, honesty is probably the standard. Now, if we're dishonest, then we're not in alignment. But when we're honest, honesty is the one that in 2021, over the next 10 years, will be the key to many, many, many doors of opportunity to be a documented witness to the love of God. So the fruit, the aspect, the principle of being honest, the self-discipline, self-control. We do self-control in areas that would be why? Well, if you see the end times, you see and believe that things are happening because we're in biblical proportion times, then honesty would be the one. Being honest with ourselves. John the Baptist got them real and kept them real on. So did Jesus. When John said, "Give away 2 coats," Jesus said to one person to get him real, "Give away it all and follow me, and you'll be rich with the true riches." And he rebuked the church for the lack of riches, even though they had riches in the natural or materials from the earth, put it like that. And honesty is what Josiah did when Josiah ripped his clothes and saw how they deviated from the book of the Bible in the Old Testament. King Josiah of Israel. So, King of Judah, the kings, Micah, Amos, Jeremiah, those books deal with the prophets trying to get them honest about Micah 2:1-2 on the money. Getting them real, keeping them real. Now, money will answer a matter about alignment. It will answer a thing about the fruit on the tree. If the situation would have been where the tree was honest, okay, it's supposed to be a tree of life. Jesus passed by and said, where's the fruit? Don't matter what the season means. I'm passing by, so where's the fruit? Tree knew, all had knew that the Creator was about to walk by the Son of God as the Son of Man, see. So the tree must give back life. That's its intention, the oxygen, etc. And it must not charge the birds for the wind. And it's natural. That's alignment, like the stars. It's consistent. All right? We create capitalism. All right? Know that. In heaven, there'll be nothing probably for sale. For what? There's an abundance of energy. Really, it's like that here on earth. Nevertheless, if we be honest, it's just been bad stewardship. But turning from our wicked ways and being honest is that we all confess our shortnesses, identify our weaknesses, and as far as collective groups, churches, or leaderships, I would say being honest is the first key to turning. And everyone must look at their own way of deviation from divine principles and in the area of fruit, like kindness, forgiveness, long-suffering, patience, temperance, peace, joy, in the midst of whatever. Tapping these eternal things, these principles, these forces, perseverance, goodness, contentment, and acting like your Father. The Father lay not up for themselves, they lay up for the sons. And then we practice that with wood, which is money. What's wrong with that? Having dominion over that. The bottom line is, being honest is one of the most keys that must be effective keys. One of the most effective, because Ananias and Sapphira, they dropped dead for being dishonest. When everyone is called to turn from their wicked way, man, how you gonna be looking at your brother so hard? Especially if you jump up and just slam somebody, you know. And the bottom line is we have to be careful with self-control and meekness and wisdom. And you know, it still should be peaceful, that is to say, without judgment, but yet speaking the truth in love. And the bottom line is, if it's not done with gentleness and meekness of strength and kindness, we might have an issue. But to be honest, that would be the right way of doing it. Correct? More Christ-like. So when we look at honesty, Ananias and Sapphira could have, you know, been honest, but they lied because they wanted to be identified in their ambition that killed them. The ambition always rebels, like at Korah, when the people rebelled against Moses. They didn't know he had the divine principle, the word from God at that time. And it still makes sense. Thou shalt not kill. How about that one? Thou shalt not covet your neighbor's nothing. Land, suit, nothing. But anyway, honest. I don't know. And that tree he walked past Jesus, and it wasn't bearing its fruit, but it was acting like, I am the life-giving force, and he had a necessity. It was created to give life, especially the Son of God walks the body. He cursed it. And why was that? Because it didn't, and it defied its purpose. Jesus knew, because in the beginning, there was a tree of knowledge and a tree of good. So trees talk. If we be honest, they don't kill each other, they don't rob each other, they don't even charge rent to the birds, they don't charge water to the lizards, they don't, you know, we'd be probably selling even the steaks at bar if we could make money. But notice true alignment is just, no, you're just giving freely. I wonder is that like it is in heaven. So what capitalism got to do with Christianity other than sharing, I don't know. You answer that question. Give you the last word. But honest. And then turn. We are turning from our wicked way. And we already know there's a wicked way. Pride, the wicked way. The not being meek. Hate, slander. You know, all those kind of secret things, covetous, things that judging to the fullest and measuring it out, and being very emotional without no substance, no divine principle to govern the soul by faith. So we're going to see a lot of falling away because of a lot of feelings. And in the materialistic world, if we be honest, all you get is materialism. And materialism, what does that get? You don't get deliverance from it. You probably get more bondage when you're into it. So just being honest, people turning from their wicked ways. Maybe that tree should have turned from its wicked way because it was cursed, twisted. No, it was designed to give life. How much you charge? The bottom line is, we have to be honest that if I live in one house and I have my proclivity, so do your brother, your neighbors. And so that's why Jesus wrote on the ground and said, you without sin, cast the first stone. Now that has nothing to do with trying to restore your fallen human being. And you got to brethren, and it don't have to be brethren, but it can be stranger. Deuteronomy 26, Deuteronomy 14, the tithe for the Levite and the stranger. God was awfully kind. So, and if I only love them that love me, Jesus said, what good is it? If I be honest, I must love my enemies. How that wind up taking land and guns and I don't know. That's another gospel. However, the bottom line is true alignment. And if we be honest, we, by the grace of God, the salt of the earth, can turn from our wicked way. But how we know we've turned, there'll be humility. And when there's humility, you have there'll be a humbleness of mind. So we have to be careful, you know. So it depends on what we're going to do. Are we going to be honest over the next 10 years and be able to take the speck out of our eye and help our brother that cannot see? Those are the rules, let's say, in the spirit. And of course, not because I said it, but whatever those standards and plumb lines out for the next 10 years in fruit, that's required. You know, everything is operating because of divine order. So what are we serving? Do we love mercy or do we love hate? Do we love unforgiveness or do we love forgiveness? Do we love meekness of strength? That is to say, I can hold back and don't have to be first. Do we love ambition, which caused the rebellion at Korah? Oh yeah, to rebel against the word. I'm going to do it my way. Not the word's way, per se. Bottom line, that's Korah. So, if we be honest, didn't covetousness cause Achan to fail? Because his whole family, he got them destroyed that followed him and all that he had because he coveted the Babylonian mantle, where it says garment, and the gold. And when he saw it, like Eve, when she saw that the tree was to make her wise, her eyes would be open, you know, to, hey, I want this. There it was right there, and he covered it. What if God, when he raised the man around, if we be honest, you couldn't have more than one house, or one car, or one refrigerator. Let's say it's manna, and you got to eat it every day, and you eat it for 40 years. Then what? What are you going to do then? We would have died in the wilderness. Most of us Americans are very materialistic, and it's very hard to do our job. So, you know, it's just a matter of what are we going to do? Are we going to be honest over the next 10 years? Or are we going to look at what happened to Achan? It didn't happen. What happened to Ananias and Sapphira? It didn't happen. They were dishonest. They wanted the glory. They wanted to be acknowledged, some scholars say, for their gifting to give to the apostles when they were distributing to the necessities of those in their group. And he didn't have to lie about how much. That was not the issue. The issue is he wanted to be recognized. Ambition. Again, same thing that got Eve. See, when we be honest, some of our ambitions block out the destiny that God has for us because we're so caught up into it. You know? Hey, sometimes we're just going that way. God works it out. But that ambition, instead of just being quiet and letting life dictate to you exactly your next step and making sure your calling and election sure. If we be honest, we're going to make many mistakes. But if we don't learn from the mistakes, that's where the problem will come in. And then if we be honest again, who can be saved as great tribulation is about to come on this planet? Who's ready? Even for the housing market, if we be honest. What do you think the housing market is going to do? Look today at the people, as I call it, the bus, the train rather, they were lined up down the Sacramento River. Now, I saw today true homelessness. It's like, wow, that is incredible. That is hidden. Is there any oppression? You know, saints in the drugs are at the border then, or the countries that's saying it. If that's the end result, if you blame drugs for it, how many working poor are in here because of high rents? If we be honest. It looks like oppression and a volcano covered up. But anyway, moving right along, you know, if we be honest, collective groups, I salute you for your unity. And I would say to you, do as much as you can to bring relief. If you can, buy apartment complexes and own them and set people free so their finances would be free enough to help their family members that might be going through as a witness to them and as a witness and as a testimony to them that we can shine to the world. So I would suggest, if you especially do it to the least of these, you win. And if you do it to a stranger, you win. But how much more would you win if you did it for those of the household of faith? Let's speak of the elderly and disabled, the rents, the housing market, the investors that control it, the reality. Deuteronomy 14, Deuteronomy 15, Deuteronomy 26, and 2 Corinthians 8 and 9. Malachi 3, 10, and 11. All of the times. That is enough for the poor. Of your brethren, at least. And it'll be a witness, if we be honest, to the other people that are connected to your family members. As we use money like a tool over the next 10 years. And over the next 10 years, we make impacts based on the money that we save because you own the complex. Now, if that's too big for you, start with something else. You know, anywhere you collective groups, because two are better than one, and you will get more done when you have more numbers. So I would suggest if you care about property, build or buy land and build at cost. That'll be good. Or pay off mortgages and get people out of debt. Help each other like Joseph. Just a suggestion. And, you know, we want to see the glory. And one thing that people in the country have seen, to be honest, is a family that got each other back collectively. And the business world shouldn't show that. And our people don't have to depend on the government when they have the church right there and a chance and opportunity to witness to their family members having the same care one for another. What's wrong with that? What if we did that? What if we shined that? What if we honest was to really show the world that we are disciples of Christ by the love we show for one another, as Christ said. And it will be the proof of our sincerity, of our commitment to each other as family and in the gospel. And that's basically what we want to share today. And if you guys got something out of this, I appreciate it. And I just hope that we can rock over the next 10 years with divine principles, laws, and fruit, or principles. Appreciation, praise, gratitude, perseverance, in self-control, in goodness, you know, the right way of doing things, being honest and just in all things. What's wrong with that? You know, we can do it through Christ who strengthens us. And I think we can make the world better. If we show the world we're peculiar people, we got each other's back, because times may get real hard coming up over these next 10 years for the poor, working poor then. not alone the stranger or him that hath nothing to eat. Remember, if we be honest, in the Word of God, it talks about tithes that were to be brought in so that the necessity of basic things like food, you understand, and the stranger that was among them, and the widow and the father stranger would come to these feasts, and they would have food, and they also would have all the food in the 3rd year and the 7th year. Therefore, if we did it that way, he figured, I guess, there would be no problem. The poor you'll have with you always if you don't share. Therefore, call it what you want, whatever ism you want to put on there. Bottom line, sharing is always good. Joshua 1, they had to help those that got theirs to make sure their brother got theirs, and they helped each other. You know, and that's how they got the land. Now, call it what you want about the land. Bottom line is that's how they got it. So two are better than one. So we can get things done through the power of giving. The key is giving and being honest. So we can stay honest and understand you that without sin, throw the first stone before you step. But understanding we must speak the truth in love to each other, but we got to all be honest. Turn. We're turning. I'm turning. You're turning, hopefully. Because the ones that don't turn, they'll be holding the glory of it. And that's pretty serious business. Ask God to give us strength, with all humility and humbleness of mind, that we'll make the cut and be able to stay in the light and have your own oil. Whatever you do, if you be honest, you better be fellowshipping with your Maker. If you don't, you can lose ground. We don't want to lose ground. We want to stay in the flow. We want to be able to be more than conquerors over everything, especially dealing with money and covetousness and greed and always thinking and making merchandise out of people. We just got to be gut honest and go for it. Honestly. That's the key. And because we're going to be humble then before God. Honest about ourselves first and foremost in the inward parts. Our thoughts towards people. That we're commanded to love our neighbor as ourselves. And how do we do that and speak the truth in it? How do we be solid? It's all about trajectory is the Great Commission. And to impact people with Christ-likeness, much fruit. And then, over the next 10 years, be fine-tuned to the Spirit and how He will lead you. And each individual that's in front of you to make you an expert as an ambassador with tailoring to each individual. God knows that fine-tuned. And our intention to make impact, especially with money, if we could. Same love, same care, or we gonna go wrong. We can't lose. So I just really advise you guys to allow us to shine, allow us to be a group that's thinking and pointing to divine laws. That's all that matters in the end, is divine laws, divine principles. And there's no sense in turning from our wicked way if we're not honest with ourselves. We turn because from ours. Believe me, all have sinned. You're going to have something in you that has been affected by this world we live in, and especially in a materialistic, very intense materialistic world. It's all about divine principles, and everything else is a lie because it perishes. So we want to be masters in that, and honesty is one of those divine principles, if we be honest. But with ourselves, true commitment, vigor, strength. And we go in hard on ourselves. Make sure we're lined up with this purpose. When you're unkind, just repent. Go the other way. When you thought that thought towards that individual and put them down like a dog, think the other way. Run the other way. When you think of that thing, of how you're going to, your motive is to get some money from somebody, think the thought and go the other way. And say, I'm a blessing and I don't charge. Man, if we can hit that level and be honest, we might see the glory of God. God bless you guys. Jeremiah 23 and hood. And we would like to add to that, if
just the African American tribe alone, and I'm talking to all tribes, but African American alone, if some say $250 billion is spent, based on a 10% of that, if you set that aside over 20 years, so say you set aside 250 million of what the total consumption is, you'd have your own land, your own housing, your own businesses, stores, gas stations, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's just that simple. The blessing is in the unity where God has commanded. Jeremiah 23 in Hoods. I'll give you the last word though.